So Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, Cyclops, and Doc Brown jump in a beamer to go cross-country searching for enlightenment. Fuck it, why not? Interstate 60 is brought to us by director Bob Gale and stars James Marsden, Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox, Gary Oldman, Amy Smart, Kurt Russell, Chris Cooper, Amy Jo Johnson, and more. Damn, that's a whole bunch of famous mofos. So this is another Patreon request from my top tier bad motherfucking patron, Greg C. If you didn't know, I have a Patreon with multiple tiers linked in the description below, but my top tier bad motherfuckers once a month get to request one movie that I have to review. And this month, patron Greg C picked Interstate 60. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I'd never fucking heard of this movie, but once I got into it, seeing how many really big names are in it, I was kinda surprised I'd never heard anything about it. And after seeing this long list of names in the opening credits, I was kinda starting to think, oh shit, the reason I hadn't heard of this movie is cause it's pretty fucking bad. And I started to question this whole giving my patrons the power to tell me what I have to watch and review. But color me surprised, much like last month's request of Blood Punch, I found a movie I'd never heard of that was a hidden gem. Yes, Interstate 60, though I'd never fucking heard of it, was a pretty entertaining flick. Now, it's not perfect, but it is very interesting and entertaining. But one of the most entertaining things about it of all is kind of topical right now. And that would be that the core of its story, not necessarily the way it's told, but the actual core of its story is very similar to a new movie that I recently watched that a lot of people liked that I didn't really care for much. And that would be The Green Knight. Whoa, give me a second, stay with me. The basic premise of this movie is that James Marsden's character is a struggling artist. Now, he comes from a family of very successful lawyers and business people, and they are expecting him to go into the same field. But it's not really what he wants, so he ends up making a wish that he wishes he could find what it is he is searching for. Just so happens that when he makes this wish, Gary Oldman's character, that is kind of like a genie of sorts, is present. But he ain't that good kind of rub the lamp and you get your 3 wishes immediately, no strings attached genie. No, he's that kind of asshole genie that's gonna send you on some kind of fucking quest to like learn something and get what you want, or at least what you need. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of the better way as far as like growth and being a better person, but as far as like that selfish side of us that's just want something right then, kind of sucks. Anyway, James Marsden's character gets contracted to take a package on a road trip cross country on Interstate 60, which doesn't exist. Or does it? Interstate 60 does not show up on any maps. Nobody knows where it is, but he does somehow end up on this illustrious interstate, and while on it, he runs into quite a few curious characters. And on this journey, he grows as a person. He finds out what it is he actually wants and needs in life. He becomes a better person because of this journey. You see, it shares kind of the same basic premise as The Green Knight. The only difference here is that I wasn't on the verge of falling the fuck asleep the whole time. At its heart, this movie is a comedy, and while not all of its comedy lands, a good portion of it does. Marsden's Neil runs across a slew of really curious, odd characters throughout the entire film, and most of them are played by really famous actors, or at least faces you've seen before. You've got Amy Jo Johnson as this super horny hitchhiker who wants to fuck everybody in sight. Kurt Russell as the police chief of a town that is supplying its residents with a drug that allows them to party like it's 1999 all night and then remain docile enough to do manual labor all day. Christopher Lloyd as the godlike character that sends him on this journey. Amy Smart as the woman of his dreams that he keeps seeing on billboards that's pointing him in the right direction. And the always awesome Chris Cooper is one of the best characters in the movie that can't stand liars and has dynamite strapped to him that is ready to blow the place up at any moment. And that's just a few of them. There are some very odd individuals that we come across in this film. While this movie was very out there at times, it was extremely creative and very entertaining. And with its R rating, it was never held back. It was never afraid to make more risque jokes. In fact, there are quite a few jokes throughout this film that I wasn't expecting, because on its surface, this doesn't seem like an R-rated film. I thought I was watching like a PG-13 movie, and then they bust out with some really raunchy shit, and I had to check. I was like, oh shit, this is rated R. I thought this was some kind of like kooky late 90s PG-13 flick or something. But no, it's not. This is a very R-rated movie at times. Now, about that whole late late 90s thing I just mentioned. This movie did come out in 2003, but it really seems like a late or mid 90s movie. I don't know if it's like maybe shot years earlier and then finally came out in 2003. And while I know 2003 isn't that far removed from the 90s, this movie really seems like it came from the late 90s. But even with the movie being a bit of a product of its time in some places, or the product of like a few years earlier than its time, I guess, it was still extremely enjoyable. It had this certain charm to it. Yeah, there were a few moments that were a bit goofy and hokey that you only really get in those mid to late 90s types of movies, but they weren't that rolling your eyes kind of goofy. They were kind of a charming type of goofy. Now the movie does get a bit more and more zany as it goes on, and there were some moments a bit closer to the end that seemed a bit convenient for the story. But all in all, even those parts just kind of fit into the surreal world that they created within Interstate 60. And even though the movie does get a bit raunchy and raw at times, it still retains this innocence and charm to it at all times. Is this the greatest story ever told? No, but it is damn entertaining and a really fun ride, and I had a great time with it. Guys, at the end of the day, Interstate 60 really surprised me. I wasn't expecting much from this movie, and I got a whole lot. It's got some really entertaining performances from a whole lot of faces that you know that all seem like they're having a great time. The story's a bit out there and surreal at times, but always fun and entertaining. And while every bit of the comedy doesn't always land, the vast majority of it does, and that doesn't is still charming at the end of the day. It is a bit of a product of its time, and it does get a bit goofy here or there. And at times, the story can be a bit convenient, but the charm that this movie has overrides all of that. And while it absolutely does have its flaws, it doesn't change the fact that it is very entertaining and absolutely worth a rent.
All he wanted was this.
I have to return some videotape.
This movie was a lot more entertaining than I was ever expecting it to be. So if you're looking for a lighthearted but interesting, entertaining comedy for the night, then check out Interstate 60, and I think you'll have a great time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Interstate 60. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys. And maybe join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C, and get your opportunity to request a movie of me to review each month. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Denver.
Love those highways.
While I was a bit hesitant of this movie at first, it did have me within the first 5 minutes. When we have Michael J. Fox's businessman character get into a traffic accident and get out of the car and start yelling expletives all over the place, just fuck here, fuck there, fuck all over the place, I was in love. Michael J. Fox, Family Ties, Back to the Future, just fucking up the place. I loved it. It was a moment after my own heart. Fuck yeah.